We're talking about Bloodborne again, yes, and it is quite justified because we are now currently celebrating its 10th year anniversary since it got released. Since this game came out, everyone still talks about it. It has such a huge influence on the industry, on video games. We look at Bloodborne as this more than just a surprise hit because Miyazaki, the game director behind these Souls games, was someone that I think we took for granted even back then. He rolled out Demon Souls back in 2009, and it took a little while for that to gain some popularity, and it picked up, and people absolutely loved it. Then he came out with Dark Souls 1, and that blew everyone's mind. And that game alone won that game alone actually won Miyazaki the Game of the Generation award. And in secret, he collaborated with Sony on this gothic, dark take on the genre that was Bloodborne. Even then, we were really surprised by what was an offer. And now we look back 10 years later and we're wondering, why hasn't there been a spiritual successor? Why hasn't there been any form of sequel? Why hasn't there been at least a remaster? And now that we've reached 10 years since Bloodborne has released, we're looking back and wondering in complete bafflement, why has Sony haven't made a remaster or even announced anything about a remaster for this game yet? The silence surrounding this remaster to this day is so baffling, especially because it's almost like we've been led by Sony themselves through a few teases here and there in some of their showcases and trailers when they kind of mention Bloodborne or show a few seconds of it, and they're like, oh, so they are doing something here, and still nothing. And despite its massive success, fans are left scratching their heads as to why Sony hasn't given the game at least a 60 FPS update or brought it to the PlayStation 5. No, of course, Days Gone remaster definitely needed that treatment instead. Horizon Zero Dawn, The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2, but not Bloodborne. I'm telling you, man. Like people have been baffled before, but this is a new low for PlayStation. And with now the game's anniversary, the 10th year anniversary passing, and no clear direction in sight, fans have once again, they've taken matters into their own hands, organizing events to return to Yharnam once more and relive the experience together. At the heart of this mystery lies this very complex relationship between Sony and FromSoftware Studios. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the director of Bloodborne and the mastermind behind the Dark Souls series, has been tied up with multiple projects, justifiably so. They're rolling out the Elden Ring Night Rain later this year. Very excited for that. But I'm sure he has a few others in the pipeline that he can't just talk about yet. I'm hoping Dark Souls 4, but that's just me. And his success really has kept him incredibly busy. But even with his success, there's still the sense that he holds a deep attachment to Bloodborne. He has in interviews talked about this, and even former PlayStation president in a recent interview offered a theory as to why the game hasn't seen a remaster. Shuhei Yoshida suggests that Miyazaki's connection to the game is so personal and strong that despite the clear demand, he may be unwilling to let anyone else handle it. This respect for his wishes could explain why Sony hasn't pushed for a remaster, despite their history of bringing older games to modern consoles. But this is just a theory, guys. If anything, it's a coping mechanism at best, just so that we feel we have some excuse as to why Sony has not done anything or they've been that quiet. And this theory, while not official, sheds light on why Bloodborne has remained stagnant in the remastering pipeline. FromSoftware doesn't own the OP, unfortunately. I wish they did. So it's ultimately up to Sony to make any moves. However, their reluctance might be due to the fact that maybe they are respecting Miyazaki's vision and his hands-off approach to the property after its initial release. But still, there's no denying the potential for a next-gen version that could introduce a more smoother, more polished experience to fans who have been waiting for years. And in the last couple of years, we've actually seen some really interesting progress, at least from the community side. There was one indie developer who worked on a Bloodborne-inspired retro PlayStation 1 kart arcade racing game. It was initially called Bloodborne, I think it was called Bloodborne Karts, but they actually had to rename it because Sony approached them and said, hey, this is a great little project, but you need to change a few things because you can't have it associated to the brand. That game I played, it was super fun, and I believe they're coming out with a DLC very soon, later this year. And there's even in the modding side, we've seen people porting the PS4 version and basically getting it to run on an emulator at like 60 FPS and even more. And I think there's even hopes to try to get the online support to work as well, separately from the PSN capabilities. I'm telling you, this is the desperate measures that this passionate fan base has gone to, just because Sony is just not willing to appease the demand of all the IPs that people have been asking for over the years. Bloodborne still continues to not have the remaster. But no, Days Gone remaster, we need it. And no offense to any fans out there who love Days Gone, but it just feels like of all the ones that they could have done, of all the demand that was out there, Days Gone definitely didn't need it. Also, The Last of Us. But meanwhile, fans haven't given up on the Bloodborne community driven initiatives like the Return to Yharnam event, which you can be a part of this week. That's going to be taking place on PlayStation. So it's nice to maybe dust off your PS4, or if you're using your PS5, download the game and join on the Return to Yharnam event. It's really nice to some extent, at least the fans are keeping the love of the franchise alive and well, despite the frustration, despite the silence from Sony. You gotta keep it going. It kind of reminds me of how, with Red Dead Redemption 2 online, and how Rockstar kind of slowly removed support for that multiplayer, but every now and then the community comes back and tries to do events to help keep the player base alive and well. And only time will tell if the theory that Sony is just respecting Miyazaki's wishes, or they're just, as everyone assumes, just being complete idiots for not appeasing the demands of the fans. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Only time will tell. But have you been waiting for a Bloodborne remaster? Perhaps even a sequel? All we can do now is just wait patiently. Another year, another 5 years, perhaps 10 years. But at least FromSoftware is going to continue coming out with games. So Miyazaki and his team, keep it up. But sooner or later, you're gonna have to face the truth about Bloodborne, or at least what people want from that franchise. Do share your thoughts and opinions. Do let me know. We're gonna take a short break. We'll be right back with a lot more news and highlights from the world of entertainment right here on the Evening Buzz.